What they're doing in Minnesota, though, I think is the impetus for change, because I don't think you can ignore this.
Whenever you have a failure of liberal governance, they use these crises to put a Band-Aid over the bullet hole of their failed policies.
Because it's an outrage that the taxpayer money was stolen. But to me, and what we're going to get into, but what's more outrageous is that Democrats perhaps knew about this and engaged with it because they felt it helps get them elected, and that this is a constituency that they should appeal to. And it's just like they saw taxpayers being robbed as business as usual for them.
I've worked at Coca-Cola for 21 years.
We're delivering Dr. Pepper from our brand new facility in Dallas, Texas.
We're really proud to still make Pepsi products in America.
You don't need a college degree to work here, but I put 4 kids through college by working here.
This is a great place to work with great people and great American brands.
Grocery stores, convenience stores, restaurants, they all depend on us.
We deliver great paying jobs.
We deliver beverages people love.
We deliver for our community.
Some things stand the test of time, like America's farmers. And they deserve high-quality, built-to-last machines with technology that reduces inputs and saves them money and time. That's why John Deere is investing billions in American factories and launching new tools to help customers repair their machines to keep building for their future. Empowering our customers, building America. Because our nation counts on our farmers. And John Deere is proud they can count on us. Paid for by John Deere.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. It's time for our main event.
Good Tuesday to you. Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program. We trust everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and you enjoyed a little bit of the Ruthless Friday program are on the way. We had a terrific time doing it. I'm Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. It was a great weekend.
The best.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But now we're right back in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to discuss. And the thing is, all of us take great pride in the areas that we're from. And you can hear it on both the audio and the video as we have a civil discourse about the relative merits and demerits of the states that we grew up in.
Unfortunately, when it comes to Minnesota, the demerits are stacking up. Josh,
Dude, it's a tough time for Minnesota.
Boy, it is a lean time in the land of 10,000 lakes, fellas. It is. It's tougher than tough. You know, it was bad enough. We had Max Brosmer starting for the Minnesota Vikings. You get blanked in Seattle. Like, this is what the basement feels like. I'm not, particularly accustomed to being a basement-dwelling NFL football team. We live and die with this stuff in Minnesota.
aren't the Bengals like 2 games from first in the division? Like, even the Bengals aren't as bad as shit.
Yeah, we stacked like 40-something on the Bengals, and they still got a better record than we do. It's not good.
but that's not the limit.
No, it's actually the least of our concerns. Right. So we're gonna look. There's some tough love for my peeps here in this top segment. A lot of you have heard about this massive fraud that has been exposed in Minnesota. Part of the Somali population. Surprise, surprise. But we're going to put a fine point on it because there's a lot of stuff out there, and you've probably seen it. But when you delve into this, it is actually a nationwide conundrum. And you have to figure out how to get this right, because when you have corrupt leaders in a state that are basically being used to try to perpetuate a fraud against the American taxpayer, which is what this is. It's both a Minnesota taxpayer, it's also a federal taxpayer. You got to talk about it, because my sense is this has been going on in California forever in different ways, right? They talk about Medi-Cal and things like that. Greatest fraud anywhere in the country. But a bunch of libs do this in a bunch of different places. What they're doing in Minnesota, though, I think is the impetus for change, because I don't think you can ignore this.
Hopefully.
And Governor Tim Walz is at the very center of it. We're going to get into that. We've got a great guest, fellas. Great guest. Ashley Hinson joins the program.
OG friend of the program.
OG. I mean, when we had USB mics into the side of the computer and we were traveling where nobody even cared if we showed up or not, she always did.
Our first trip to Iowa.
Yeah. She was always fun. And so we followed her career very closely. It's been incredibly successful. She's now running for Senate. She is right here today, and she's a bit of an artiste.
She is. Yeah, she can play the violin or the fiddle, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, a musical genius.
Real
in some
talent.
ways. I didn't even know that existed.
Well, and we tested her chops a little bit before we started recording. We were just like calling out from the crowd, hey, can you play this? Can you play that? And she can play it all.
She can play it
just
all.
off the top of her head.
So we're going to get into that, and then we've got some analysis on the special election that's happening in Tennessee that's getting a lot of national attention. We've got some variety. And when the program has variety, you know you're going to have fun with it. But first, boys, the New York Times, the old gray lady, you know it's bad shape when the New York Times
Right.
is like digging in on a progressive lib thing.
Very rare.
You know, they got to get out from underneath this at some way. Because you remember back in the day when we were talking about all the stimmy funds and all the stuff that was happening around COVID.
Right.
The whole state and local funding. Well, we got to make sure we flood states and localities with a whole bunch of funding. They were like, how dare you not do that? Just send federal money to these states and localities. They know what to do with it.
And at the time, it was places like the New York Times who said that Republicans were so cold-hearted they wanted states and localities to go bankrupt.
Yes.
They were going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
If not for all these stimmy funds from COVID that were going to replenish the coffers of the state government.
Yeah.
And now we found out, of course, subsequent to that this became a fucking slush fund for these people to rob taxpayers.
Yeah, which was so predictable. And Republican leaders at the time had talked about the fact that this was going to end up in this. It's ripe for fraud. This is the worst possible scenario. And remember, there was a couple like filibusters, a whole bunch of different things that happened during the course of the COVID era where Republicans objected to the state and local funding the Democrats wanted to push into the system. I think ultimately during Republican leadership at the end of the Trump 1 era resisted the attempt to send just billions of dollars there.
Well, and of course, because always, whenever you have a failure of liberal governance, they use these crises to put a Band-Aid over the bullet hole of their failed policies. We've seen that with the enhanced subsidies on Obamacare, for example.
Great
right?
example.
And we saw all this with COVID. You got states like California where their entire public pension system is bankrupting the state. And so they wanted all this money out of COVID so they could paper over all the malfeasance that had happened over with these public sector union pension
where'd the money
programs.
go?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
It doesn't matter when you have $1 billion coming in.
Yeah.
You know? Crisis is a terrible thing to waste.
Rahm Emanuel.
As Rahm made famous. So anyway, New York Times put up graphic 1. How fraud swamped Minnesota's social service system on Tim Walz's watch.
No.
Again, shocking from the New York Times. Just shocking.
Whoa. It's shocking in a couple of different ways. One is that he was the previous vice presidential nominee of the Democratic Party, a national brand in some ways. But two, he's up for re-election as a Democratic governor in the state of Minnesota. For them to get that side of this, like, I don't think you guys understand. New York Times doesn't work this way, right? You can be a Republican candidate with some skill and look like you have some upward mobility in a sleepy race anywhere across this country. And New York Times will demand a profile piece.
Yep.
Because they will want to dig in to every time you peed on the toilet seat. They will. Like, that's what they do. But for the Democratic side, either they write like everybody's excited about this person.
Oh, this is why this Democrat candidate is the next generation of
future.
leadership. Yep.
The future. Or they just ignore it altogether if it's kind of a hairy story. And that's basically the way that they operate. For them to get in this when this man's on a ballot in, 13 short months? Something else. Well, we found out why. Prosecutors say members of the Somali diaspora, a group with growing political power, interesting, were largely responsible. President Trump has drawn national attention to the scandal amid a crackdown on immigration. The fraud scandal that rattled Minnesota was staggering in its scale and brazenness. This is the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
Federal prosecutors charged dozens of people with felonies, accusing them of stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from a government program meant to keep children fed during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Can I stop you there?
Each word of that sentence just gets like more diabolical. Like hundreds of millions were stolen. Wow. From a government program. What? Meant to keep children fed. What? During the pandemic? It's like,
I know. Every 3 words.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's like the Grinch will be like, this is a bit much, gentlemen.
That's right. That's right.
He's like, yeah, I hate the Who's, but not that much.
Like, we got to have some ethics around here.
Let me just go back to the first 2 words of that line. Federal prosecutors. You know that the New York Times is trying to stick it to Tim Walz because they didn't say the Trump administration is charging.
Dude, that's a great point.
If they were taking a little something off the fastball, they would have labeled the federal prosecutors as Trump staff.
That's some good
not only
expertise.
that, but there was 3 long years for a Biden administration to bring these kind of charges. I wonder why. It begs the question why. Anyway, going on. Over the last 5 years, law enforcement officials say fraud took root in pockets of Minnesota's Somali diaspora. Right? Diaspora?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Give me a
Diaspora.
yeah.
diaspora. Diaspora. So it's like aspera.
Yeah. I did well on my verbal SAT. I'd say it's diaspora.
He's acting like he's the only one who knows how to speak around here. I'm just asking.
Well, you're the
because
one who
I've-
asked.
Well, I've just never heard. As scores of individuals made small fortunes by setting up companies that build state agencies for millions of dollars worth of social services that were never provided.
Wild.
Interesting. So federal prosecutors say that 59 people, Jesus Christ,
Right.
this is huge.
It's a lot of people.
59 people have been convicted in those schemes so far, and that more than $1 billion of taxpayers' money
Billion dollars.
has been stolen in 3 plots they're investigating. And that's just what they're investigating, folks. Like, you can only imagine what happens underneath this. Anyway, that is more than the Minnesota spends annually to run its Department of Corrections. Minnesota's fraud scandal stood out even in context of the rampant theft during the pandemic when Americans stole tens of billions of dollars through unemployment benefits, business loans, and other forms of aid, according to federal auditors. Can I pause this on this? It was a weird time, COVID, and there was a lot of fear, and there were a lot of businesses that the federal government and state governments basically prohibited from doing business.
That's right.
Restaurants.
Shut people down.
Right? Churches, as we came to find retail stores, things like that.
This is livelihoods that people built up over generations immediately shut down and closed.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And so one of the reasons why, and we were on the air at this time, we were talking about this, but one of the reasons why some of this made sense is when you have a federal government and state governments that are telling you literally can't do business. You have a liability there. If you are giving a directive to those businesses that people can't have any commerce whatsoever, you have to do something about reimbursing.
It's the same concept as like eminent domain. Like if the federal government demands land,
They
then
gotta
they
pay
have to pay you the market value for that. And in this case, the government's ordering you to shut operations. They need to compensate you.
Well,
for
and
it.
the whole point of those programs, the PPP program, for example, was that you could pay all of those workers at your restaurant, right?
Yeah.
That the government is forcing
As long
to stay
as you
closed.
kept them employed.
You keep them employed. You keep them on the payroll. This PPP loan helps you pay all those employees who'd otherwise be in there working. The government won't let them work.
Now, quite literally, the program kept America's economy working, and you didn't have civil unrest across this country of people who are not only out of a job, but no way to make a living over a period of months when the government told them they couldn't show up for work. Where this thing slid sideways was the breadth of it. And like I know in D.C., and you guys all experience this too, all of a sudden you see like K Street lobbying firms and PR agencies who are like, yep, PPP. And they're taking PPP money. And of course, the line at the time was like, there's no discriminating against a PPP claim. If everybody's in, like, you know, nobody looks down on people who take PPP money. So everybody's got a little bit like the argument around TARP.
Yep.
Right? And it kind of worked in that there was no discriminating. But all of us were looking at this like, dude, business was never larger in Washington, D.C. than when it was during COVID, when all this money came sloshing out of the federal government. There was no lobbying firm or PR agency or anywhere that had a lack of work at the time. I mean, it was massive because people were trying to influence the federal government. So we saw this and we were like, ooh, this thing is going to get like ugly. And what happens like 5 years down the road is going to be troublesome. Little did we know the problems at the state level were twice as bad as what we were dealing with at the federal level. State agencies reimbursed. This is the Feeding Our Future situation. Let me just read this first. The prosecutors focused on Minneapolis nonprofit organization called Feeding Our Future, which became partner to dozens of local businesses that enrolled in feeding sites. Very noble cause, with a record of doing the job. State agencies reimbursed the group and its partners, invoicing claiming to have fed thousands of children.
You know, can I just stop you right there? I can think of another model of feeding centers that was developed over generations in this country. It's called restaurants that families started that were shut down by the government.
Yeah.
And then it goes to some NGO so that they can be the feeding centers, and people aren't allowed to go to Olive Garden, or they're not allowed to go to Shoney's, or wherever they're going to go to eat something. They have to go to some government group. Anyhow, sorry, just my rant for a second.
No, I mean, listen to the people who were involved. Anyway, in reality, federal prosecutors said most of the meals were non-existent. The business owners spent the funds on luxury cars, houses, and even real estate projects abroad.
Again, the Grinch would be like, this is a bit much.
I can't do it.
Like, we gotta have some ethics here. You're really gonna buy a Lexus in this money you took to feed kids? Like, come on.
I just wanted to live on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the program's annual cost ballooned to more than $104 million last year, the authorities said, from a budget projection of $2.6 million when it began in 2020. 2 of the 8 people charged in the scenario have pled guilty. 6 others have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial. Prosecutors so far have charged one provider, Asha Farhan Hassan, 29, with wire fraud. This guy's 29 years old. Wire fraud. They say that she and business partner stole straight up stole $14 million.
A lot of $1 million.
Allegedly.
Do you think they pay tax on that?
Right? They're like, I'm not a sucker. I know what our government does with the money. They give it to people like me.
But does it?
They'll waste it. I'm not paying taxes.
I mean, back to the top of this article, the way that they described it was brazen, and I mean, I don't think there's a better word for it. If you think about the fact that it was budgeted initially at $2.6 million, like during COVID in 2020. And last year, the cost ballooned to more than $104 million. Like, that is incredibly brazen.
What are you doing?
Yeah, like, how is it that you thought you'd get away with this?
I don't know.
To think that in the height of the pandemic, the budget was $2.6 million, and it was $104 million last year. Like, how did you think you were going to get away with this?
Because they did.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Yeah, they do it
because
in secret.
They do it.
They done it deliberate.
They do it in secret. They done it deliberate. So Mr. Pakya, who represented other defendants in the fraud cases, said that some involved became convinced that state agencies were tolerating, if not tacitly allowing, the fraud. Right? So the defense of the people who are just stealing all of this money are that the people who are giving them the money know damn well what
they wanted to be
it is that they're
stolen
doing.
from.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, they know we're not doing the job, but they're still sending this money. Who amongst us wouldn't take billions of dollars?
You're always going to have a couple of Lexuses, maybe some foreign properties. That's just part of the thing of feeding people.
So listen to this. No one was doing anything. This is quote, unquote. No one was doing anything about the red flags, he said. It was like someone was stealing money from the cookie jar and they kept refilling it.
It's incredible.
What an amazing quote to have about an agency under Governor Tim Walz's direction, that people are scamming tens of millions, maybe even $1 billion. And they're like, no, they knew. They just didn't do anything about it. We were stealing all the shit. And they were like...
And, I think that is perhaps the most critical part of this story, is not just because it's an outrage that the taxpayer money was stolen, but to me, and what we're going to get into, but what's more outrageous is that Democrats perhaps knew about this and engaged with it because they felt it helps get them elected and that this is a constituency that they should appeal to. And it's just like they saw taxpayers being robbed as business as usual for them. It's unreal.
It's unreal. So I want to play for you a quote from Jazz Hands himself, Tim Walz, on all of this before we go to the break, and then we're going to react to all of it. Clip one, please.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated. But that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
You are a fucking piece of shit.
Can you believe that?
I literally, dude, listen, I maybe take this a little harder because this is where I'm from, and this is not how I grew up. I mean, you had Democrats ruling the state for generations.
I wish you felt about that state the way you do.
It's unbelievable to me that you would try to deflect this question, right? I mean,
because that's what
New
that
York
was.
Times is reporting that $1 billion of taxpayer money has been stolen on his watch. And he's like, well, people are going to jail. Where's $1 billion, Tim Walz?
Where is it?
Where is it? I tell you where it is. It's in fucking Mogadishu. Because you didn't do a goddamn thing to stop it. And it is unreal to me that there isn't like a civil uprising in Minnesota with the people that I grew up with at this point, not to just throw these absolute assholes out of office.
I mean, for him to be like, she's like, so all this like fraud and shit happened on your watch. Do you take responsibility for this? For him to be like, I understand taxpayers were robbed, but here's the thing, folks. Talking about this is racist. Like, are you for real, dude?
Well, so
are you for real?
Wait until we get into that, because after the break, we're going to get into the Mafia-style tactics that were used against government employees trying to keep a look at the purse strings, and they just went along with all of it, including Governor Tim Walz, right after this.
America's demand for energy is rising rapidly, and at a time when American families can least afford an energy shortage. But for decades, critical energy projects have been blocked, limiting our access to reliable, affordable American energy and putting America's energy dominance at risk. The solution is obvious. Overhaul the broken energy permitting process. Make it faster and simpler. Innovation, a strong workforce, abundant oil and gas. We have it all right here in the USA. Let's put America first and political agendas last. We can power our own country, create thousands of good-paying American jobs, and unleash American energy to be bigger and better than ever before. Because when America builds, America wins. Read API's plan to secure America's future at permittingreformnow.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
Why was the government shut down? Because big insurance greed knows no limits. The same insurance companies pocketing billions in profits were demanding billions more in taxpayer-funded subsidies again, putting millions of families at risk, shutting down our government. Now, unless they get their billions, the big insurance companies are threatening to raise your premiums even more, putting greed and profit before patients. It's time to hold them accountable.
Okay, so how did this happen, right? I mean, we know that there are politicians who operate in a less than forthright way. We know there are crooks. We know, I mean, it's story as old as time. But this level, to get the New York Times involved to say this is a different level, is a fundamentally different picture in how bad this actually is. Like, this is incredible. So they go on. Feeding Our Future, the nonprofit group that was the largest provider in the pandemic program, responded with a warning. In an email, the group told the state agency that failing to promptly approve new applicants from, quote, minority-owned businesses, unquote, would result in a lawsuit featuring accusations of racism that would be, quote, sprawled across the news, unquote.
That's the most cynical shit I've heard in a long time, but that is what this country has endured for almost a decade. The left has essentially been, do what we say, or we will call you racist, and we will scream it from the rooftops. The left has essentially just weaponized accusations of racism to the point that it means nothing now.
And we've talked about this on the show for years now, but what the left has done is they've outsourced all these mafia tactics to these NGOs, these non-government organizations, to go ahead and pressure people into doing what they want, right? It's like it might be a small minority of the overall country that wants this thing to happen, but if you don't do what we want, well, there's going to be a story about it. What a terrible person you are. What a racist you are.
It's so lazy because
that's how they captured corporate America, folks.
It is.
Like honest, hardworking Italian Americans used to have to break kneecaps and shit. And now these NGOs are just saying that, like, we'll call you racist in the papers. Like, if they had any heart, they'd be out in the streets breaking kneecaps like our Italian Americans have to do.
But you also have to know a little bit of something about the Minnesotans that are involved, right? Why is this so effective amongst these people? I grew up in a post-racial society in Minnesota. My heroes were Kirby Puckett, Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr. Like, I never even thought about it. And that is the way the entire generation that I grew up with within 10 years start to back handled things. And once we got into this like Obama era, everybody's a racist type stuff, they're particularly concerned with that. It's one of the reasons why like the western suburbs of Minneapolis, which is a huge population base there, that was held since the 70s by Republicans, has been Democrat since the Obama era, is because those people, they hate this. They hate it.
Yep.
And the mere threat of them being labeled as a racist is enough for them to take the eye off the ball. And it's not because they're just like giving up, you know, their proprietorship over or ownership of the tax dollars. It's they really have real fear, but they're not racist. These are not racist people, but they are concerned about it. They don't live in New York, right? They're not dealing with 18 different dialects and all kinds of shit. They don't live in New Jersey where you've got a multicultural situation. They don't live in the Deep South where you've had, you know, racial strife that you've had to work through over a long period of time. These are people that like fundamentally believe that all people are created equal, and if you accuse them of racism, they're like, they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
They're concerned. I think this is changing because of the overreach of things like this, but you can see how this is a uniquely vulnerable population to this kind of thing. And when you sit on top of it, a governor who is interested only in the political receipts that you get from saying, oh, I'm supportive of a minority population.
Again, so cynical because, like we just said, like when Obama came in and it became the whole like everyone is a racist, and it's the left's divide and conquer tactic. And for Tim Walz to be so cynical, to adopt that and then be like, I want to make clear when he's asked, you were governor, so you're responsible. What are your thoughts on that? He's like, I want to be clear. This is racist against Somalis. It's like, dude, and he's the guy in charge. This is pathetic.
Dude, it's crazy. All right, so a report by Minnesota's nonpartisan Office of the Legislative Auditor about the lapses that enabled the meals fraud later found that the threat of litigation and of negative press affected how state officials used their regulatory power.
Terrible. Pathetic.
Think about that. That is, ladies and gentlemen, a shakedown racket.
Bingo.
That's what DEI was born.
And just like Duncan said, it was done to corporate America.
Yeah.
Yep. This is what the play is of the progressive left and what they have done for generations. It's how they held hostage this country.
BLM was the same thing. During COVID, they rioted in the streets, and then you heard all the leaders of that nonprofit were like buying mansions in LA with the money.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to invest all this money into quote unquote minority businesses. We're going to go out and we're going to picket in front of your corporate headquarters.
Bingo.
Right.
You can stop that by paying the money to us.
Pay the toll.
The toll. If you can pay that toll, the protection money, we'll leave you alone.
Nice house.
Yeah.
Shame if something happened to you. Right?
Yeah.
So, Kayasa Magan, a Somali American who formerly worked as a fraud investigator for the Minnesota Attorney General's office, said elected officials in the state, and particularly those who were part of the state's Democratic-led administration, were reluctant to take more assertive action in response to allegations in the Somali community. Well, that's interesting. He's a Somali who's saying this. There's a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats. So here you go.
That's it.
Wild.
That's it right
now
there.
You've knit together a whole bunch of things. There is a fraud that took $1 billion out of your pocket. You may be wondering why you send half your shit to the federal government and another 12% to Minnesota and never seem to get any service other than the fact that you can drive to work on a road that's not like,
Even then, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Even then.
But ultimately what this is they have created a voting bloc.
Yep.
Of people who are downstream of Black Hawk Down.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you look at some of these countries in Africa that are failed states that the United States has given billions and billions of dollars in foreign aid to over a generation. And people wonder to themselves, oh, why can't they figure it out? Why can't these countries turn it around? It's because these are places that are fundamentally corrupt, right? And then we've been trying to fix them for all of this time and send all of this money, and it's failed. And then on top of that, in that failure, we've now imported these people into our country, and they've brought the same corrupt politics that ruined their homeland to our shores. And then, now they're part of the government. And so the graft is coming from inside. And now you've got Somalis in the government who are okay with the corruption outside of the government.
100%.
I mean, it's just bonkers.
It's absolutely bonkers. This Magan guy is one of the few, according to the New York Times, prominent figures in the Somali community willing to speak about the fraud. Because most people are just...
I mean, that's the thing is
not interested.
Just like Duncan described, is that we saw with, USAID and all this expense that America gave to these countries, and they end up being run by corrupt individuals, and it just becomes basically let's take this cash and let's give it to my supporters. It's just a graft system, right? Like Tammany Hall, right?
Yeah, I mean, but this makes Tammany Hall look like fucking Boy Scouts.
Totally right.
And we talked about in a recent episode this Death by Lightning mini-series.
James Garfield,
Civil
War.
There used to be a spoil system that was very corrupt in the United States, but we solved for that like 150 years ago.
The whole patronage, 1800s.
Following the assassination of a president.
But there's many places in the world that still operate entirely on that system.
And we're importing.
And
that's the thing is you've now seen the Democrat Party wholly embrace that. This failed system of corruption, they have wholly embraced.
That's how Stacey Abrams gets $1 billion into a bank account for something she's never done before.
This is the same way that you saw like with left-wing dark money, or whether it was Beyonce doing a show for Kamala Harris after The Wire clears. You know what I mean? Like
it's the way they operate.
They are just a completely corrupt
They don't actually
system.
believe in shit.
Nothing.
It's like pay the man.
That's what they believe in.
Then I'll believe in it.
They believe in the money. When The Wire
know?
hits, that's what they believe in.
Because that is the fundamental base of their party. So as the trial in the meals fraud case was coming to a close last summer, an attempt to bribe a juror included an explicit insinuation about racism, prosecutors said. Several defendants in the trial were found to have arranged to send a bag containing $120,000 to a juror along with a note that read, why is it always people of color and immigrants prosecuted for the fault of other people?
Oh my
Amazing.
goodness, dude.
That is...
We have a problem.
But
Houston.
this is the reason that I
Why
tried
didn't I get that bag? I'd be asking that question. Won't someone speak out for these communities?
Mr. Mogadishu, if you're listening.
Yeah, unmarked bills, non-sequential, I'm smart enough.
But the reason that I wanted to provide a little bit of a primer on Minnesota and its culture is because this is where this makes sense. Only in a place like that would something that read like the sentence I just did make any sense, right? If you're trying to do that in Atlanta, Georgia, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? We've dealt with this shit forever. You try to do that in a multicultural New York, anywhere in the East Coast or whatever, they'd be like, huh?
Can I say, I think I'm shocked they think it would work. I think the days of it working, maybe outside of deeply blue states, is over. I think one of the reasons Trump was reelected is because people are done with it. Like, I remember feeling like there was this almost like nationwide exhale after Trump won last year. That they're like, thank God, because everyone is so tired of this shit.
No question, but I think my point is that this runs much deeper than you think.
Maybe Minnesota's a weaker state with weaker people.
Listen,
who they're scared of this shit. Trump told us we don't have to be scared anymore. We don't have to be scared anymore.
It is definitely not a place of weaker people. What it is uniquely vulnerable to the situations that the left has built. And what they have built runs much deeper than the national DEI, the affirmative action at colleges, in particular Ivy League schools. It runs much deeper than all that stuff that Trump solved in the first 30 days of his presidency that we've all celebrated and talked about. It is endemic in cultures around this country of people who are uniquely vulnerable to the argument that, like, no, dude, I just want everyone to figure out how to live together.
So when you
import a whole bunch of people who don't believe that fundamentally.
So what you mean in that is like places in the Midwest that are majority white, for example, and then some immigrants, are brought in from a third world country.
The reason they're there is because they were accepting in the first place and that all men are created equal.
Right.
And they believe that.
These are not racist people. They don't have a racist bone in their body.
Right.
In fact, they grew up in an entire society where they were taught to be colorblind.
Yep.
And these are good, honest people. And suddenly there's people who are brought in here from a foreign land, and now they're being called racist. And so they overcorrect.
Yes.
In a sense. And as somebody from the Midwest, too, from Indiana, I can see this.
It allows nefarious operators the room.
Yeah.
Because the argument provides the room for fraud at a scale that we're talking about here. So where did the money end up, fellas? This is where this story takes an extremely dark turn. Minnesota's tax money almost certainly ends up in the hands of Somali terror group Al-Shabab.
Wow, great.
Louise.
So this is according to Yahoo. Minnesota's Somali community has sent millions of tax funds to Somalia via Hawala networks, much of which has ended up in the hands of Al-Shabab. A decent amount of Minnesota's tax money almost certainly ended up in Al-Shabab. A source from the U.S. Attorney's Office told state outlet KSTP. KSTP is a great local station. But they asked the question, the U.S. Attorney's Office is like, yeah, dude. It absolutely did.
It's a terrorist group. You thought you were feeding kids and you were buying Toyota Hiluxes for a bunch of terrorists.
Right. Dude, that's
good truck.
Good truck. Durable. Nice for mounting machine guns in the back. This follows a collection of reports, including an explosive investigation by the Manhattan Institute City Journal, which revealed the Minnesota Somali community has sent millions of tax funds to Somalia via the Hawala networks, much of which have ended up in the hands of Al-Shabab. Al-Shabab is a Sunni Islamist militant movement based in Somalia. It has been allied with Al-Qaeda since 2012.
Jeez.
The U.S. attorney added that Al-Shabab controls much of Somalia and imposes a tax on all financial activity in the areas it controls. That's how they fund their terror. According to reports, Somalia's economy is heavily reliant on money from its citizens in the diaspora, meaning people who are not living in that hellhole, somehow immigrated somewhere else, are garnering money, in this case, taxpayer money, working Americans' money. In 2023 alone, Somalis abroad sent $1.7 billion, more than Somali government's budget for that year.
Incredible.
So, when you think about
that is wild.
The wild stuff that we've reported on the Ruthless Variety program, with clips about Ilhan Omar, for example, going in front of Somali nationals and talking about her loyalty to Somalia, despite the fact that she is an elected representative to the United States Congress, all of a sudden, this starts to make more sense.
I'm the captain now.
I'm the captain now. And look, we didn't break this down entirely, but that mayor's race was a pretty good example. Jacob Fry, the sitting mayor, is absolutely horrible. He was the crybaby that was sitting outside of George Floyd's
funeral
coffin, pretending as though he was the most aggrieved member of the Minneapolis community by this death of George Floyd. And we know all the circumstances involved in that, but it was a huge uprising in the community. This is a guy who was running against a Somalian for mayor.
And the only reason that the Somalian guy lost is because he was a member of one clan.
The Darun, yeah.
And then the rival Somali clan didn't want that clan to be in power. It's dude, I love that the state of Minnesota is now decided by the clan rivalries from Somalia.
Well, and that's the other thing,
the state deserves it. Listen, here's the thing. is when you're these are nice people that were preyed upon. No, they're not. No, they're not. I hope all the federal taxpayer money is clawed back and the people who did that are locked up. But when it comes to the state level, I want those Minnesotans to start policing their state. You know that song that Try That in a Small Town? Try that shit in North Carolina.
No, I'm with you, dude. I mean, the Minnesota that I grew up with,
it's gone.
This shit would never fly.
They allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
This shit would never fly. There would be riots. Real.
Were there?
Real.
Were there? There were riots in Minnesota and Minneapolis burned. And it was the summer of 2020. So where are the riots that would have stopped this from happening?
I don't care if you work for United Healthcare, Medtronic, or Target Company, or whatever, and you just, are hanging out in Lake Minnetonka or at Dino or whatever, and somehow, Trump's rhetoric is off-putting to you. Look at what you're doing to your state by voting the way that you are. You are allowing fucking Mogadishu to control the purse strings on Minneapolis and St. Paul. That is unbelievable to me. If any state in the union had this going on, I would say the same thing. The fact that it's my home state makes me furious. Absolutely furious. I don't understand how you can have a political... How is it that you still have partisan allegiances after you've seen what they've done?
Right.
How is it possible?
If I had to bet, I bet Minnesota gets bluer. I bet it gets bluer and bluer.
Well, how would it not? Because you're importing.
Yep. Because it's
Islamic extremists by the dozen.
And dude, the Democrat Party is now essentially just Tammany Hall, coast to coast. It's a money Just like it's all based on who's paying who, give me my share. And that's what they've done to Minnesota. It's what's happened to New York City, and it's going to continue as long as Democrats have any say in it. The only thing they believe in is getting money, everybody getting paid. That's why you see Soros's boy collecting all these elected Democrat officials. It's from the top down. It's coast to coast. This is just a microcosm of what the Democrat Party is.
It's a failure of argument at some level, too, in that I think Republicans under Trump have won the argument nationwide in terms of what is acceptable and what's not. For states like Minnesota, and there's a bunch of purple, Colorado would fit into this same
it's been taken
category,
over and destroyed.
Where, like, I understand you're concerned about abortion, but you have state laws that are dealing with all of that stuff. Does your concern with something that's never going to change outweigh the fact that $1 billion is being stolen out of your pocket to send to terrorist networks in Somalia? Does that outweigh that? And if you can make the case, if you can't make the case to reasonable individuals that are enough to make up a majority to elect a Republican senator, and this doesn't need to be Ted Cruz, you know, this doesn't need to be the conservative, like, I'd love it if it was, but it doesn't need to be the most conservative person. Somebody who's represented, like Norm Coleman, the first campaign I ever worked on. Perfect example. Like this guy, I guarantee 3 years ago would have been all over this had he represented the Minnesota in the United States Senate. Well, we're just finding out now because you have a Trump administration that cares enough to look at where the dollars and cents are. Because Tim Walz didn't give a fuck. He was like ushering it in. The Biden administration had 3 years to prosecute all of this. They didn't give a fuck because it's part of the base mobilization of what they do. As long as they vote Democrat, who gives a shit? That's why they talk about a Michigan problem.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They believe in nothing but the money, dude.
They believe in nothing but the money. So, like, whatever your predisposition is and how you think Trump's rhetoric is, or this and that, whatever, like, at some level, this is insanity.
Yep.
This is you are Mogadishu, Minnesota.
Yep.
My people.
It's gone,
You have
dude.
turned
It's
into
over.
Mogadishu, and for God's sakes, Max Brosmer is your starting quarterback. For God.
Dude, it's
we
all
haven't been
over.
shut out since 2007. Fuck you.
It's over. It's all over for Minnesota.
This leads us to our question of the day. What do you think Al-Shabab did with the money?
That's going to be golden.
They got millions
That's going to be golden.
of your taxpayer dollar. You know, you're just hanging out. You send a federal withholding to the IRS. IRS transfers to Treasury. Treasury sends it out to the great state of Minnesota. You pocket it into the Feeding Our Future fund. It goes to some Somali militant who sends it to Al-Shabab. How do you think they spent it?
I think Al-Shabab is probably spending it on unders on the Minnesota Vikings.
Amazing.
Point totals.
Amazing.
I don't know, old man. Maybe after last weekend, they're going to do the same thing to the Colts.
They might. They might.
Wow.
If the refs have
That was
anything to do with it.
unnecessary. That's out of control.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, this fucking guy.
Unreal.
I bet on him. I lost on them.
Oh, yo.
You bet on them.
Oh.
Part of my 16 parlay, they really let me down.
I can't believe you'd go into that.
That's unbelievable. Ashbrook is unbelievable.
He's out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Well, anyway.
Daniel Jones blew it for me in fantasy, too.
When we come back, we're going to get to your comments from last week. It was the Thanksgiving episode, so I know that you all had a lot of good things to say. We're going to get to all of that right after this. Okay, when you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety program, we invite you to leave your comments on our question of the day. When you do, we read every single one of them. We cultivate them and get back to you the very next episode. To do that, we always start with a voice, but let me read the question. Question was, what's the best way to deal with your liberal family members on Thanksgiving?
Yes. Such a wonderful question. And Nicholas Grandinetti came with our first comment. Nicholas wrote, I put on YouTube, I type in MSNBC election night 24, and it's 3.5 hours of liberal meltdown.
It's so good.
Is this Smug's burner account?
Yeah.
Nicholas Grandinetti.
Hello, Mr. Grandinetti.
I've said it to the guys. Like, whenever I want to pick me up, I literally literally Google that
It's
on
sick.
YouTube, and it's always a good time.
And you can find a couple of YouTube channels that have the super cuts where they compress
The
down
best of the best.
the best of the best.
And they play like in the Hall of the Mountain Lord as like it's building up to Trump being announced as winner. It's so good.
What a king. Nicholas, thank you for that.
All right, comment 2, Dunks Runks.
From Naudius Maximus. Naudius writes, "You guys already nailed it. Walk in the door wearing a Trump 2028 hat and don't take it off except for the prayer. Find the most distressed-looking family member and with a bold grin, point at your hat and smile like you know something they don't."
That's it, dude. That's the gist of what
Just
we did
scare
last
people.
Thursday. Yeah, just fucking scare them. All right, comment 3, Smugs.
Comment 3 from Hypercoach. Hypercoach writes, "You must make fun of all their sacred cows. Do a turkey acknowledgement before carving it up. Everyone absolutely must have a slice of dark meat to make sure their plate reflects equity. And finally, right after they sit down with a full plate, walk right up, take 20% of the food off of it, and offer it to a random person outside." Perfect.
That's so good. Hypercoach. Great stuff. Listen, when you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Friday program, we get a lot out of your comments. We read every single one. That's a perfect representative of what we do on Thanksgiving. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know we enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
I had a friend, by the way, who he had an adaptation of this where he was like with a handful of in-laws who are libs, and all he did is press play on our episode, but kept it on speaker. He just sat it next to him as he was watching football.
Yeah.
And they were sitting there too. And so they had to hear what it was that was going on. And he said it took no more than 7 minutes before everybody was excused themselves.
Amazing. Mission accomplished.
Perfect deal. Perfect deal. All right. When we come back, Tennessee's got a special election. Is it close? Is it not close? We're going to talk about all of that right after this. Okay, welcome back to the Ruthless Variety program. Tennessee special election. Of course, this is a seat that has been vacated. Special elections, they happen when seats are vacated. They typically, when a party's in power, get a little hairy just because Democrats, in this case, don't have a lot of opportunity to try to change the score. So they put a lot of money into it, try to ramp up all of the anxiety. It makes things seem like they're super close. Not sure this is close or not, but Smash, you've been following this closer than most.
Yeah, so this is a district just outside of Nashville. It's west of Nashville and formerly Marsha Blackburn's district. It actually hasn't been represented by a Democrat since Ronald Reagan came to town. So this has been a hard red district. And a poll came out recently showing that this race is very close. Lee, if you could pop that up. This is from Emerson, and it shows that the Republican Matt Van Epps is leading the Democrat, this lunatic Afton Ben, by only 2 points. Now, I will caveat this by saying that there are 2 Dem polls that have been released in the last few days that show the race at 8 points. They think they're down more than this Emerson poll shows. And there are some Republicans who say it's probably closer to 5 points, maybe a little bit better.
Wow.
But this is going to be a close race. And what you need to keep in mind is that the Republican who held this seat and left it, Mark Green, he won by 22, or I'm sorry, Trump won this district by 22 points in the most recent election. So the move from 22 points in a solid Republican district to potentially 5 points in this special election is noteworthy. I mean, that happens when Democrats spend millions of dollars. That happens when there is low turnout. But based on the early vote, based on where Republicans think this is, we could be looking at a very close race, but there's some optimism from Republicans that we will pull it out. The election is today. We'll probably know tonight who actually wins it. But one thing I think is important to keep in mind, even if Republicans do win it by 5 points, which some are predicting, I think we need to remember 2006 when there was...
what was that like, Grandpa? 2006. Okay.
In 2006...
Woodrow Wilson told me.
What is
A lot of our
2006,
listeners lived through 2006. It was a nightmare year for Republicans, and it was a horrible midterm experience during Bush's second term. There was a guy named Brian Bilbray who won California 50 by 5 points.
Yep, in a state in a district that was like 20.
Duke Cunningham, the previous cycle, won it by 22.
Yep.
So if Republicans are out there thinking that, okay, we won this district, we got by, everything's going to be fine, I got news for you. We are headed for rocky waters. There's no way around it, and we need to be ready with good candidates. We need to make sure that we have turnout operations that are consistent with winning strategies, because this cycle is going to be very, very difficult for us. And if you believe otherwise, you're deluding
But
yourself.
we don't really even have to go back to 2006 to I think, make that argument. You could just go back to 2018, the first midterm of the first Trump term,
right.
and that we've had this as a structural disadvantage as we've shed, more moderate suburban Republican voters and picked up more rural working class voters who have a lower turnout propensity in midterms and special elections and things like this. And when you're at the party in power, the people that are most animated to turn out and vote in a low turnout election, special election on a random day rather than a regularly scheduled election, are going to be the opposition. It's going to be these people. So, I say that to say, like, there are structural disadvantages, but I don't want to overlook what Ashbrook's talking about, and that is there are other questions that we have to answer in the minds of the electorate in this next year. And we talk about this a little bit with Ashley Hinson and stuff, and talks about affordability and trade and all of these things that there are anxieties in the electorate and pocketbook issues that we have to address, that we are not doing the best job of doing thus far, but hopefully we can.
It helps when you have a candidate like Afton Ben.
Mm-hmm. Lunatic.
Clip 2, please.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville apparently an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and they're like, oh my god, Nashville is so bad! They're so loud.
I mean,
that's what we need, another angry broad like this. Like,
for those of
people are leaping to have more of that on the menu.
For those of you on audio only who could not see the look on her face in that image, she is clearly a lunatic. But to Duncan's point about turnout, this is part of the Dem strategy. This sort of lunacy is what the hardest left people and Democrats are motivated to vote for. And so this is the type of candidate they're going to have across the map next year.
And also, Nashville is like one of my favorite cities on earth. Wonderful people there. The food is great there, and like the history of music there.
And it's a great place to visit.
Mind-blowing.
And that's what's most outrageous to this is, like, if you own a small business in Nashville, you're relying on tourism. You're relying on all those people coming to visit, the Grand Ole Opry and stuff like that.
How do you think it works, sweetheart?
Yeah.
Like, it's just... Look, these people are horrible. And first of all, her name's Afton.
Yeah.
Aftyn. Thank you for that. I appreciate
Right?
it. Very, very representative of the good people of Tennessee.
I think Afton is off-putting.
There you go.
How about that?
How about that?
Is there no like drum roll? But on there. Yeah.
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 Anyway,
he's not even working the board.
Listen, if you're in the good state of Tennessee and this has slipped over your radar and you're in this district, get out and vote today. Go out and make your voice heard, because this is one of those things that if somehow this crazy person gets over the top and wins this election, it will forever color what it is that the midterms are all about.
Mm-hmm.
It just will. And we have an uphill battle. No question about it.
Folks in Nashville, do you want your city to become the next Minneapolis?
Oh, that's Jesus. I mean, you son
That's
of
why
a
you got to
bitch.
vote.
I have so little.
Hold them accountable, Smug.
Smug, God bless it. Okay. All right. So, listen, we got to get to variety.
And we've got really good variety today.
We got some good variety. Power struggle. Can we do clip 4, please? What you're looking at for our YouTube listeners is a lineman, who has
He's fighting a black bear.
He's fighting a black bear who has worked his way up to the power lines. But what
he's trying to rope him,
and then
the bear's climbing down.
He's coaxed him down. A black bear is getting down. But watch. Comes at him.
Whoa!
Oh boy, he's got to get out of there. And then he goes up another line.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Guy's shown a lot of bravery here, but he's clearly using his might and not his mind. What they needed was a jar of honey 100 yards away from the tower. The bear would have run away, taken the honey, and gone off.
That's a bit much. So for anyone who...
would you just shot it?
Bingo. Anyone in that situation...
Okay.
Shoot the thing, but don't aim for the head. And if you do shoot a black bear...
Oh, you want it to suffer.
So here's the thing is... No.
Well, be the rug.
Shoot it a few times. Let it bleed out fast.
It's the rug.
That's the thing. I want a bear rug, folks. And I don't want it to have like its skull caved in, because you got to have the head of the thing, when it's laid out and it looks so nice. It's always about the rug. Because it would be so nice. It would have a wonderful place in my home, and I'd always be grateful to whoever said that.
I will say, though, like I read the articles that dealt with this thing. So what they were trying to do is that this bear, because it got itself up on the top of the power line, they were trying to prevent it from being electrocuted. Who gives a shit?
That's what I'm saying. If you want a perfectly preserved pelt,
an
electrocuted bear works just fine.
Wouldn't that make all its hairs like stand out?
It freezes it out.
You might get some,
right.
You might get some fringe.
Looney Tunes, dude.
You might have to brush it out a little bit.
I don't want like a cooked and it smelt like burnt hair rug. I don't know about that either.
Imagine
just shoot it. It's a lot easier. America's full of guns, people. If you see a bear, shoot the hell out of it, but don't hit it in the face and send it my way.
Parody.
I think only if you have a license.
Yeah, right.
And a bear and a bear tag.
People are going to be violating state laws on hunting. They're going to be like, the Ruthless
That would be
fellas
my
told
dream.
us.
Christmas morning, our studios got like 7 or 8 bear pelts sent our way, because we have the best listeners in the world. Go forth and legally kill as many bears and send the rugs my way.
You thought this last story provided an opportunity for smug? Wait till you get a load of this. According to the New York Post, a new holiday gift idea, Guido on a ledge. Let's put that up there. Oh, there he is. Okay. Guido on a ledge is an Italian-American's fist-pumping over Staten Island mom's Elf on a Shelf makeover. You've heard of Elf on the Shelf, and now there's Guido on a ledge, a plush doll decked out in a wife-beater tank shade slides, supporting facial, chest hair, and wearing a good luck horn. Where do you want to take this?
First off, you knew it was Staten Island. You knew it was Staten Island the second you saw this. And also, like, Guido on a ledge. It's not a rhyming term. It's not like Elf on the Shelf. Any of you gents have any better suggestions here?
No.
I'm really afraid that Smug is going to do an Italian slur.
Is it a slur? I think it's a thing. I think they said it in Godfather. Did they say it in Godfather or no? I think if they said it in Godfather, I'll say it. But if not, I don't think we get in trouble.
No, it was definitely said in Godfather.
Yeah, so I thought instead of having, like an elf on a shelf or a Guido on a ledge, you put it on top of the tree and you get the wop on the top.
Oh. It's just unbelievable.
Can we bleep that?
No, our Italian friends are going to be so upset. But, look, this doesn't seem to be...
they're calling it a Guido, right? It's this...
What's
put
worse?
The term is the same.
A Guido? It feels like a Guido might be worse.
No, and the thing is that Italians...
Jersey
they're friends
Shore.
to all, dude. They're friends to all. They don't get mad.
They say Guido
it's not like
in
they're in
Jersey
waste
Shore.
management and make bodies disappear. Like, that's not an Italian-American kind of thing to do.
Hold on. Creator Christine Fiscaro Lintonello, a Red Hook, Brooklyn native who now lives in Staten Island, said Goombas get a kick out of Guido.
See, they say Goomba,
so
dude.
Goombas
They get
is
all these
definitely worse
Goombas,
than,
Guidos, yeah.
They're doing it. Although it's a play.
They're doing the slurs.
I feel like Nikki Spaghetti is going to give a call.
He is.
Although it's a play on Elf on the Shelf, the doll their parents put out each morning after. I mean, dude, this is the bane of my existence, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah. No, I mean, when you get kids in the mid-single-digit range, like anytime between 3 and like 8, the whole elf on the shelf thing is a problem. Because it becomes incumbent upon the parents. You have to like put it in somewhere. It's got to hide somewhere in your house. I never had this growing up. Did you guys have this growing up?
I didn't have it.
No.
No, I mean, this didn't exist, but apparently it exists everywhere now. So I'm like, every night, right about the time I'm about to pull the covers back and get in, my wife is like, hey, did you put out the elf on the shelf? And I'm like, no, like, what do I, and it's got to be something exotic, right? That takes like 15 minutes for me to do. I got to set it up somewhere to make it look like it's doing something. I got to put it in stripper poses and having elf on the shelf, like throw dollars at the situation. I mean, I'm going to make this thing graphic this year. Because I can't, I literally.
You got to get creative.
I got to have some laughs.
Also, get this Guido, too.
So maybe
throw him in the mix.
Maybe here's my Guido on a ledge.
Here's my objection to this entire thing. Italian Americans have incredible history, and they have great traditions, and we love their food and all of these things. Why isn't that enough? Like, why is it that you now have to take a tradition that is, it's fine
It's
in and of
supposed to
itself.
be Santa's elf.
It's
not
Santa's
supposed
elf,
to be.
and you're going to go ahead and make it Italian. There's not enough Italian things.
We have Chris Columbus have to
so
be.
Here's the thing. So a place that has a lot of Italians is Philadelphia, right? So you should get the Guido. You put a little Eagles helmet on him, and then your kids are gonna love this.
They'll love it.
They're huge Eagles fans.
We have dedicated an entire episode to savaging my home state.
Yes.
It's not enough to destroy Minnesota. We must support Philadelphia Eagles.
Unbelievable. God bless. I'm just like, I'm just gonna go home and cry.
I think the Italians could straighten up the Somalis.
We have to pit them against them.
We got to support the moderate Italians on the ground.
We just don't have enough Italians in Minnesota. Yeah. I think the New Jersey, like if we can get maybe like in the Biden, remember the Biden planes that were just flying people across the country? Mm-hmm. If we could do the little bit of that from Staten Island into North Minneapolis,
they clean it right up.
I feel like it would be
That'd
cleaned
be a good idea.
up. Actually, that is it. Mr. President, if you're listening. Yeah. Might be the right way to
Send the
move.
Italians to Minnesota in their leather jackets.
I feel like I've got a lot of faith in the Italians on that front. Anyway, through no fault of her own, Ashley Hinson, who has nothing to do with any of this commentary, but is a wonderful human being. I can't get enough of this lady. She's running for Senate in Iowa. She's a congresswoman who's done all the right things, is there for all the right reasons. Check it out. I want to welcome back to the program one of our first friends here on the Ruthless Variety program. Such a great host in the great state of Iowa. She's a congresswoman, and you will know her all. She is running for Senate. She's a big deal. Ashley Hinson.
Fellas, good to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure. It's been too long.
It has. I was thinking back, it was like Iowa State Fair days, and I was eating bacon out of a fanny pack pouch, and it was like 1,000,000 degrees outside.
We're coming sort of full circle here in so many ways. In the early days of the Ruthless Variety program, one of our first live events was at the Iowa State Fair, and you were with us.
Yes.
Eating that bacon out of the fanny pack.
Yeah, we ate a lot of bacon at the fair.
We did.
Yeah, a lot of meat products. And I remember following you guys kind of around as you were working your way through the, eating your way through the Iowa State Fair. And I don't know how many different foods you tried that year.
There was some humiliation involved in that.
A lot of meat sweats.
Yeah. And I remember you pointing us in several directions that are regrettable in retrospect, but at the time tasted terrific.
But a good Iowa tradition. So you are always welcome back at the Iowa State Fair, although we did get a foot of snow this weekend, so looking forward to the 90s again, I think.
Well, tell me about that. I mean, look, I grew up in Minnesota. We always see our Iowan Southern sort of brethren to our Minnesota people. It turns out there's snow this time of year.
Kind of Minnesota South. I got to get the poll on there right. Yeah,
With
we
better
had
politics.
Our hot dishes, and we did our sledding, and no, we had a foot of snow, so it was great to be home for Thanksgiving with the boys.
Wow,
and
that's great.
My boys are 14 and 12 now, so lots of hijinks and fun were had over the weekend.
Imagine.
And we went through all of our Thanksgiving leftovers already. Max, he's the 14-year-old, just puts away mashed potatoes. Like, I cannot keep up. So, no, it was great. But yeah, a foot of snow. So Saturday was just, we just were outside sledding and shoveling and having a great time.
Your boys have basically the same age gap that my boys do, a couple of years ahead. And it appears as though I'm going to get into a situation where grocery bills are significant.
Yeah, you might need to consider selling a kidney because it does. You need a second mortgage to afford it. But turns out, actually, dealing with two boys has been the best training for working in Congress that I could have ever imagined because it's like the best skill set. You're negotiating with terrorists every day, and then you come to D.C. and you have to do the same thing.
So good. One thing that I was surprised to find out, I didn't know this, but Minnesotans, in Iowans, we all get along in some form or fashion. Minnesota's got bad politics. You guys have great politics. California is not something we relate to at all. But I saw that both Eric Swalwell and Katie Porter are from the state of Iowa.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we don't really claim them in Iowa, but I will say that good riddance to get out to California now. And I say that as someone who went to school in Southern California. I went to USC. That's where I got my undergrad degree. And I loved being out there for a few years. But yeah, beautiful state, crazy politics. And they just keep getting crazier. So
it feels like a foreign exchange program.
Yeah.
Where you guys just and a few of you stay out there, apparently, Swalwell and Porter.
Yeah, well, neither of them seem to be making very good political decisions these days.
Right.
So, yeah, I saw Swalwell, his announcement for governor that he shot probably at his D.C. townhouse, and then Katie Porter having her total fit on the media. I mean, they're making wise political decisions out there. Something's in the water, I guess, in California. So, good riddance. They can have them.
Yeah, it's wild. I want to ask you about something that I think is near and dear to your heart. So you mentioned your sons, and I know that you have been, as a mom, very involved in their school district. The kids go to a public school, and their school, a lot of people think, in the Midwest, woke doesn't touch the Midwest. We're past woke. We're not necessarily past woke in the Midwest. There are still pockets of it that are worth fighting against, and I know you've done a lot of that in their school district.
Right, and this is not just a Republican issue, I want to point out, too, because a couple of years ago, the school district decided that kids over the age of 12 could change their gender without telling parents about it.
Wow.
And so the governor and I did a little parents meeting where we invited people who were upset about that policy change, and it was full of Republicans and Democrats in the room, and parents, grandparents, you name it. They were just upset that their daughters or granddaughters were going to have to change their clothes or share a bathroom with a boy, and that goes not even for the competing in sports part, but just the bathroom part, right?
Jeez,
so then fast forward to this year, we thought we had that all handled, and then this year they had a whole week where they did a Bisexual Plus Awareness Week in the morning announcements at school. Actually, it wasn't my son. He's 14. He ignores a lot of this stuff. He's like, okay, whatever, Mom. He's a solid conservative, might even be more conservative than I am. So I think I've done something right there. But, I actually had a parent who works in the school district who flagged it for me. And she's like, this is all on YouTube. And I pulled it up and I was like, is this a joke? It was really, really explicit content about monosexual identities and what it means to be bisexual, and they had a whole week of these themes. So I sent a letter to the Department of Ed. It was right before the shutdown, so we're kind of waiting for a response back from them now. But I threw a fit about this because ultimately this is about parents having these conversations with our kids. I mean, I had to look up what a monosexual identity was, and let alone my 14-year-old kid coming to me. Now, again, they're in public school. I'm sure they've heard some things, but it should be my job as their parent to have that conversation with them. And so, we'll see what Department of Ed says about that. But I think, their directives have been very, very clear. Our schools should be educating, not indoctrinating our kids.
Well said. I think one of the things that we appreciated most about you in getting to know you, because we spent a fair amount of time in Iowa, as we've mentioned, is that anytime nominations or seats or campaigns are worth having, it's when Republicans become competitive, right? I mean, anytime it's like an all blue or all red state, when it's an all red state, which you guys have now figured out how to do, it becomes competitive and internally competitive. And there's always...
heck of a farm system there in Iowa, pun intended, right?
Yeah.
You guys have an incredible delegation,
Totally.
which I think is makes it all the more compelling that when you announce this United States Senate run, felt like you came out with a head of steam, and everybody was on board immediately. And it sort of shocked us, like how easy it was for you with that momentum to basically clear the field, and everybody was like, no, we're all in for Ashley.
Yeah, well, and we worked for years to be in a place where I was ready to go if this presented itself, right? I'm very happy serving in the House. I really love my work and what we've been able to accomplish, but I think this is an incredible opportunity to continue to serve Iowans, and I think about being a mom on a mission, right? Because that's really what I am, and I think about the last 4 years, and I think struggling under the Biden regime, and that's really the Biden auto pen regime these last 4 years.
Right.
It made me more of the mama bear, right? And so I've got the right team in place. I've got the right people around the state to support me, and I've worked hard to build those relationships and the credibility as a legislator, right? And I think that's ultimately what I was able to kind of flex in that first couple of weeks as we launched our campaign. But this has been a campaign based on getting out and hearing directly from Iowans.
Yeah.
And you saw what it's like at the Iowa State Fair. We're all out there just wandering around the Iowa State Fair, meeting with our people and talking with them, and
there's
and
no
hearing
red
their
road.
concerns.
People are just coming up and talking to you, and you're doing listening and then taking that to DC.
Yeah, some of my best town halls are actually just at the Hy-Vee meat counter, because I can just, I'm up there ordering my ground beef that my kids go through in bulk, right? And I can stand there and people will just come up to me and say, hey, Ash, I saw this ad on TV. Tell me about it, right? So I think that accessibility has helped me to be successful, not only serving in Congress, but I hope, serving in the Senate in the future as well.
I mean, I think that is the bottom line, is that you've been able to not only navigate the internal sort of Republican pressures to be somebody that everybody turns to say, no, you should do this, which is, I got to tell you, it's pretty rare in a hyper-competitive situation like this. But you also have ability to build coalitions and legislate. And I think that's something that has been lost over the last few years. Like the core of the job of a United States Senator is somebody who people can get along with. And you can have common ground, figure out, because there's nothing that you're going to be able to just ideologically push through unless you can build a coalition of people who are willing to do it. You've done this like literally since the jump.
Well, I've had to, right? I've always been in a very competitive seat. And so my seat, when I flipped it from a Democrat seat to a Republican seat, was a D+1, right? So it was a very, very competitive seat. Now it's an R+4.
Yeah.
I've always worked with anyone who will work with me, whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, or whatever else, who will work with me to get our priorities done. And so that's been, even on some divisive issues, I've been able to find some common ground there. And, I think about what we're pushing toward this week, which we've got a bunch of legislation that's going to help support moms and pregnant women and students. We have Pregnant Students' Rights Act, which passed the House last year or last Congress. And, that's designed to make sure students have every option available to them on campus if they find out they're expecting a baby, so we can make sure they're choosing life. But guess what? That should be a bipartisan issue, right?
Yeah.
That's not a super divisive, just because you're pro-life doesn't mean it's just about being anti-abortion. It's about the whole slew of pro-life policy. So I've been able to find some good common ground there to help support moms. And the China policy, that's another place where you talk about a bipartisan working space. There's a lot of consensus that we can build around our policy as Americans toward China.
Yeah, a couple of issues that have arisen. Immigration policy. It's an issue, obviously, in Iowa, farm workers, everything else. I know you have staked out some legislation on the ICE side, for sure, with some of the violent attacks that we've been seeing. But this is sort of a balanced issue. I'm wondering how Iowans, the feedback that you're getting, and then if you could speak about what you're trying to do with the ICE side.
Yeah. Well, and obviously we've seen those attacks on ICE agents increase, and the attacks on law enforcement, clearly with what happened in the last couple of weeks. It's been so sad to see that violent rhetoric continue. And so I think our job is to make sure that we get people out of their way so they can do their job and keep us safe. If there's one thing I heard loud and clear, it's that Iowans want a safe and secure country, and they want the government to stay out of their lives, right? They don't want the overregulation. Farmers want to be able to farm and do what they do, feed and fuel the world. And mama bears like me want to be able to put our kids on the bus stop at the end of our street and be safe. So, protect and defend ICE. That is it's a bill I'm working on with Senator Schmidt right now that will basically double the penalties for anyone who is getting in the way or attacking an ICE agent. We need to make sure there is an actual accountability measure in place. And then you talk about what's happened in Iowa. People wouldn't think, oh yeah, illegal immigration is rampant in Iowa. Well, we have a case out of Des Moines that made national news and kind of made Iowa a little bit of a laughing stock when it came to education. But, you know, we had a con man who had weaseled his way up into the highest ranks of education in Iowa, who was an illegal immigrant, right? So I think that's why ICE needs to be able to do its job. They conduct these investigations. They tried to pull him over, and he fled the car, you know, went on a chase, had a gun in the car. So I think it speaks to the fact that their job is very dangerous, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect them so they can keep doing their job.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to effective representation is being able to relate to the people who you represent. And as a mom, I mean, basically, everybody has had a mom, or you are a mom, or you're married to a mom.
Yeah. That's how that works, turns out. Two genders.
Moms are around.
That's how it works. And I feel like, especially in the Midwest, especially in a place like Iowa, that is so key. And I know you're talking to people in Hy-Vee, and I know you're talking about safety, and you're talking about immigration, and you're dealing with so many other things. I know that prices and the economy are also a huge issue, and I wonder what you're hearing from folks and what you sort of see over the next year on that issue.
Yeah, well, I think at least we have a president who is focused on actually getting these trade deals done, finally, right? Iowans sat by and watched for 4 years, not a single new trade deal, and now we're seeing I think we're at over a dozen now of these trade deals that have moved forward. That's really good for Iowa producers because we grow a lot of things in Iowa, a lot of corn, a lot of pigs, a lot of bacon, but we need to export that. We overproduce, right? And we're kind of victims of our own success there because we've gotten so good at what we do in Iowa. So we need to have those markets. And so seeing an administration that's prioritizing that again, I think Iowans are very happy to see that. I'm certainly aware of what's going on at the grocery store, and Democrats love to talk about affordability. They've spent a lot of time talking about that, right? I think about what they did to drive up prices for consumers. Energy is the number one driver of costs. And they had such anti-energy policy, anti-American energy policy, whether it was someone filling up their gas tank like me at the pump or a farmer putting it in their tank, right? We are big consumers of energy. So guess what? That food's getting to the grocery store by using a truck. And so you talk about driving up those prices. I think this Thanksgiving was the lowest price we'd seen for gas in a long time, maybe 10 years. So that's good. I think that's a good step in the right direction. But we have to do more. And so starts by reeling in the federal government also. I think my first term in Congress, I tallied up, I voted against $6 trillion in spending.
Wow.
So now both parties are why we're here, and I agree with that. But I think that we do need to be turning that around, and we're finally seeing some of that movement in the right direction.
Yeah. What else do we have to do on the affordability issue to make sure voters know ahead of this midterm, that Republicans are standing with them on the kitchen table issues about making things more affordable for them?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down, we got to get out and make sure we're telling the story of, again, the things that we're doing to lower those fuel prices, making sure that Iowans know that, hey, we passed the Working Families Tax Cut bill in July, and that puts more money in your pocket. Wait staff who are tipped workers, hourly workers, they're going to have more of their own money. And they may not be seeing that right now, but they're certainly going to see it when their tax bill comes due. So we're focused on making sure that they are growing the economy, not through government spending. And so I think we've just got to get out and really tell that story over the next year. Again, energy affordability. And then we need to hold people accountable if they are not reflecting the savings that we've been able to achieve through policy. If they're continuing to elevate their prices and they can't explain why, I think that deserves some answers as well, because ultimately this is about protecting consumers, making sure that if you're going to the grocery store, your bill isn't going up, even though we've done everything possible as a government to lower those prices.
You mentioned Iowa overproduction in a lot of ways, like just good, solid American food products coming out of where you represent. And a big part of that is access to markets to try to figure that out. And like, look, tariffs have become a national discussion, clearly. The president has a point of view on that. I think that's working its way through the system. But you and the Iowa delegation, I think, have done an incredible job at advocating for your people in terms of ensuring that tariffs aren't just a blanket issue. You have to understand who it is that things are affecting and making sure that we have access to markets. Where do you think we are in all of that? Because I think there's been a lot of progress back from April when this whole thing started to where it is today. We're clearly not home yet in terms of ensuring that everybody's got access to the markets that they want and imports too on the tariff side. Like where do you find all of that?
Well, I'll give you a prime example. When the tariffs were announced on Switzerland in early August, I was on a joint CODEL there, so I was literally there meeting with their vice president.
That had been comfortable.
It was a little awkward, not gonna lie. But what I think they clearly realized at the time, and he came and spoke with our group again, a bipartisan group of us that were there. He was like, clearly we need to go back with a better offer, and they knew that. So again, the tariff went into place as a negotiating tactic to level the playing field, not to be, a punishment, but to say, hey, you need to give us a better deal here.
Yeah.
You've been screwing us for years. And that's true for Switzerland. That's true for China, which is our biggest, our end goal here is to get a good trade deal with China that they're actually going to follow through with, and the accountability is there. So the trade deal is one part of this. The other part that I'm really focused on, I'm on the China Select Committee. I'm focused on the accountability and enabling DOJ to be able to go after these bad guys who are, it's one thing if we have the tariffs and the duties in place, but another if they're not actually paying them as they should.
Right.
And so the transnational shipment, all of the malign tactics that they use to get around our laws and our duties, we should hold them accountable for that.
Yeah,
so it's
because
both of those
ultimately
things.
it's a dual purpose, right? You want to make sure that consumers of Iowa have access to products that aren't charged through the moon, but you also have marketplaces for uniquely Iowa products.
Like soybeans, we grow a lot of those. We grow a lot of corn. I think hogs, outnumber people. Hogs outnumber people. I think it's like 8-1 in Iowa or something like that.
Right?
So yeah, it's pretty significant.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I mean, that's my favorite
eat more
part
bacon,
of the fair.
I guess is what I would say.
My favorite part of the fair is meet your meat. I think that's my favorite part of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, it's
We'll
true.
make sure to get you guys some matching T-shirts for next year, or next time you come to the fair. So you can walk around with that, and I'm sure it'll be a big hit. Yeah.
Meat for meat would be good.
Yeah.
Meet your meat.
Meet your meat. Yeah. You can have them all displayed on one shirt.
That's right.
Great. Equal opportunity meter.
One thing that we didn't appreciate, we understand you're a musician.
I am, yes.
I had no idea.
I had no
Did
idea.
you guys know this?
No.
We had no idea.
I mean, very
we've known
accomplished.
you for years.
Yeah.
We had no idea you were an accomplished musician.
Well, if this doesn't work out for me, then you'll find me busking on the streets of D.C. But no, I love to play. I started piano when I was 5, violin when I was 7, and I was on track to be a classical musician, a performance artist, I guess you'd call them, and quickly pivoted to journalism, and I think it worked out okay, Mom and Dad. I'm feeling pretty good about things these days, but I did play all through high school, played in the Des Moines Symphony for a couple of years. My brother's in the New York Phil, so very musical family, and we jammed at the holidays, so always a great
did you
time.
really?
And my dad still brings his guitar over on Christmas Eve, and we always...
Really?
So yeah, now we're engaging the kids, because my son plays cello and my other son plays trumpet, so we've got
You have a musical
arrangements
family.
for the whole family, yeah, so it'll
You
be
can-
fun.
you
We'll
guys
send you
can
the videos when we get this year's
it's gonna
tape.
be
so.
A full
good.
band.
That's right, the Hinson family band.
I can only imagine. All right, so
Just
we've
like the
got,
Von Trapps.
we have your fiddle,
Okay, yeah, here we go.
which is something else. Maybe look, we're post Thanksgiving here. A little Christmas number to start things
Yeah,
out.
I wore my Nutcracker earrings for you guys today.
Oh,
'cause it's
look at
December
that.
1st. Okay,
Let's pull that out a
This
little
out
bit
a
so we
little
don't
bit? Okay.
blow out the speaker there.
there we go.
Here we
All
go.
right. Okay, let's do, how about a little Jingle Bells?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Yes. I love it.
This is amazing.
So good.
Oh, yes.
I'm in the spirit.
If we do
Yeah.
a Christmas spectacular,
Yeah.
she's got to be
Well,
like center stage.
We've always talked about putting out a Christmas album of the fellas.
Yeah.
Because we have such great
Carol
voices.
along. I'll accompany. I'll fit in where I need to.
Well,
Yeah.
he caroled on Fox News the other night.
Yeah.
which was something.
Hark, hear the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away.
Ding dong ding.
There we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Throw all the bells.
Can you give us some country?
Country, let's see.
Just something.
How about some fiddle music? So
Okay, yeah. Wow, love this.
Wow,
I love it.
So good.
I love it. And you've got to be at a point, given the fact that we just like threw a couple of things at you and you can play it, where you just like are a request
take
lady.
requests like
Yeah.
Mozart. Yeah, so
What
again,
a party trick.
Yeah, it is great. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's fun. And then I can serenade people, so.
What a talent!
What a talent.
So
What
good.
a talent!
You know, Davy Crockett was in the House of Representatives and played the fiddle. He never made it to the Senate. It's time for a fiddle player in the Senate.
That's right.
It's
We need
time
to
for a
bring the
fiddle-
bipartisan band playing back in the Senate. Because I think it was a
100%.
couple years ago, wasn't it? There was someone in the rotunda that played like piano and harmonica maybe
Yeah.
or something. I remember that a couple years. It went viral, but it was around Christmas time. So maybe this is our time to all come together and we can solve all the world's
Yes.
problems
This
over a
is
little
it.
song.
A little song.
Yeah.
I want to end this with, listen, you're known for your relationship with your constituents, and now you're traveling the whole state, obviously the Senate in mind. She's going to be the next senator from the great state of Iowa, no question about it. But you've gotten to know a whole bunch of people outside of your district. I imagine, like, for you, knowing you the way we do, that's fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like, this has got to be the best part of the job.
Campaigning actually fills my cup up, is what I
Yeah.
would say. You know, I think about, I've done 42 stops on the 99 county tour. So thanks to Chuck Grassley, we're doing the full Grassley in Iowa. And I look forward to serving with the great senator. And I love Joni. You know, I was so sad when she said she wasn't going to run again. And I have some big combat boots to fill in stepping up to replace her in the United States Senate. There will be never replace Joni, but, you know, obviously fill this very important seat for Iowans. But yeah, campaigning, I love hearing Iowan stories. I consider myself kind of I'm the mama bear on a mission out here, but I'm also the chief storyteller for Iowans. And I think that's really important. If you can put something in context as to why we need to make a policy change here, that's what we should be doing. Because ultimately it's about how does this actually trickle down and affect somebody on the ground in Iowa. And so that's what I try to do. And whether it's grilling somebody in a hearing or just hearing their story and saying, okay, instead of putting together a story like I used to on the news, I'm going to just put together a great piece of legislation that's going to solve a problem. I mean, I love solving people's problems. It's fun.
Well, in terms of Ruthless, we are very loyal to the people who are with us all along, even before, I mean, nobody took us seriously. But we had a ton of fun with you in the very early years, and you've been back year after year talking to us, giving us an education and a whole bunch of things that you're working on. Can't thank you enough. If people want to help you out, where do they go?
So best is just to engage with our website, ashleyhinson.com. You talk about the coalitions that we've been able to build, whether it's moms, veterans, police and fire. You know, we've got everybody, farmers for Ashley. There's lots of ways where people can engage with our campaign and help be a grassroots fueled campaign. That's how we win in states like Iowa. And, you know, when I think everybody again likes to say Iowa was a safe state because we're all Republican now, but in 2018, 3 out of 4 of our congressional seats were held by Democrats, and now we're all Republican delegations. So
well,
small
and it turns
but
out
mighty.
you can find a pollster to show you're down 15 no matter what.
She got fired, didn't she? Yeah, no, that's great. No, and you know what? I always do run like I'm 10 behind, but that poll was bunk, and we all knew it. So
Yeah,
it was it made for a lot of great campaign fodder leading up to the election. I'll tell you
I can
that.
only imagine.
Yeah.
Listen, this is one of the very good people that are running for the right reasons, who you would invite over for cocktails to hang out. And
I'll even provide the entertainment.
Yeah,
you know?
but I mean that sincerely, because I think in politics too often all of us, you know, you see politicians, right? And it's like, oh, they're going to give you the thing to gin you up and get you pissed off, go cable news, talk radio, or whatever, and they're not actually doing the work. They're just trying to gin up. This is one of those people who is one of us, who deals with things that you deal with, and that honestly takes your voice to DC. And I'm so grateful that you're running for the United States Senate. We're going to help you.
Thank you.
Any possible way we can. We're going to go to that website, ashleyhinson.com. We're going to help out everything we can, and you let us know along the way. We're going to help out however we can.
Thank you. We're going to make sure we hold this seat, and we can keep going with the president's agenda. There's a lot more work to do.
Thank you. Ashley Hinson.
Who knew she was so talented? I
Right?
mean, she hit multiple songs.
I heard that Ashkan Farewell. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like a Ken Burns documentary in here. That's impressive.
Yeah, she is there for all the right reasons. I mean, she's a mom. You know, she is fighting for all the things that basically every other mom out there in Iowa and everywhere else is fighting for. And that message, I think, resonates.
It reminds me a lot of the moms that I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
They're not like hung up on weird sort of like niche issues. It's like, dude, I got to raise my kid. I got to make sure they're safe. I got to make sure I can afford groceries. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Right.
She gets it.
And like she just gets that, and then she also moves around the state, gets to know people, and people get to know her.
Yeah.
Which is like what you want.
That's how you do it. That's how you do
It's
it.
what you want.
She can play anything on that violin. I made her play. I made her play Adagio for strings.
I know.
And then I started doing the helicopter
And
noise.
and she starts doing
like it's Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, she could play anything.
when she gave it a little staccato.
The whole thing.
Yeah,
Impressive.
and like ramped up the
Yeah.
whole. Yeah, dude, it's just she's good. She's good. So thank you for Ashley Hinson for coming in. Always a pleasure. Remember, question of the day: what did Al-Shabab do with the money? What did they do with your money? What do you think? I bet your ideas are better than most. Here as listeners to the Ruthless Variety Program. You got to like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety Program and leave your comments. And when you do, we read every single one of them. You got to check out some merch while you're there. It's Christmas season, for crying out loud. And we have a small window where we
look
can
at
ship
this.
stuff. Check out that sweater.
I survived the war on Christmas.
Isn't that great?
We also have some wrapping paper of Smug's face and stuff. And
we
You
have
want to
some,
go to store.ruthlesspodcast.com.
Yeah.
While it's in stock, you want to get it. Just 'cause it's going to sell out.
and there's some napkins there too.
Yeah, we have our Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, which is the 2024 election map.
Yep.
Napkins. Go check those out. They're fantastic.
Yeah, we got some more merch coming online. So thank you all for supporting us over the holidays. We attempt to give you a little something to work with under the tree.
And apologies to the Italian-American community for what Smug did to them today.
It just happens, and it seems like a monthly event here that we're apologizing to you all, the Italian Defamation
We love you.
League. We love
We
you.
only attack you because we love you.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So with that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Ashley Hinson, and thank you to the listeners. Remember, if you have not yet, go to the YouTube, hit that subscribe because it's more fun in video. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.
I feel like it's the beginning of Ken Burns.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
I know that song.
Yeah.
Civil War.
Shokun's Farewell?
Oh, man.
I love this song.
Civil War was fought in 10,000 places. Valverde, New Mexico to Tullahoma, Tennessee. St. Albans, Vermont, and Fernandina on the Florida coast.
Oh,